think the first song I heard which actually like wanted to make me pursue music was, I think it was Ash, Lose Control. I just remember because I was really into Star Wars at the time, and there was like a sample right at the start of the song, and it was just like, oh man, you can like mix these things together. So it got me into it, and I was just like, oh, what could you put in? And just like the creativity behind it, I think really inspired me. Just like, oh, music's not just this one thing, you can just do whatever you want with it. So I'd say recently, a lot more recently, like an upcoming artist I've been listening to, which is probably no surprise to be honest, is Sam Fender. I just love what he's doing. He's been grafting for a while, but he's definitely new to the scene, and it's like really interesting and inspiring for me to see what he's doing because like he kind of started when he was at my age, and I feel like what I'm doing now is kind of he's where I want to be at his age. So it's good to see that he started at the same place as me at this age. So I'm hoping to see I can get to the same place. Is a sign to go. I mean, I've always stuck by the same sort of things, but like, so I got into Muse when I was pretty young. I think everyone kind of had a phase, and like my dad got me into stuff like Blur, Ash, that sort of thing, like 90s like vibes. Obviously, I'm not a 90s kid, but everyone's been through that sort of that phase. But no, I've stuck by quite a few things, like yeah, mainly Muse. I say Radiohead as well. Like some of my vocal stuff is inspired by that sort of things. Yeah. I do get a bit more work done because obviously there's not a lot to do out here. There's not a lot of people to see, so everyone's kind of doing their own thing. It's not really a community. It's more of just people down the road and stuff like that. So I think that kind of, in a way, that's kind of informed my songwriting, like not necessarily feeling lost, but feeling like you're not in with everyone else. Like people who live in a city, there's obviously a huge, like people know each other, everyone knows each other. But in the country, you know each other, but you just know of people. You don't know everyone because everyone's just spread out. So I feel like it's kind of influenced my songwriting in the way that it feels individual and everyone's sort of doing their own thing. There's no people doing the same thing. Like, especially, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people doing music, so I kind of feel like I stand out on that front out in the country. So, yeah, it definitely influences feeling a bit more individual than being in the city, I'd say. I think there's a lot of upcoming bands. It's definitely changed over the years, but I think since I was in it with the band recently, I think it's changed a lot since then. There's a lot more happening. It's still pretty quiet up here, but in future, I want to get out of Aberdeen, but I'm not just gonna like completely leave it. I think there's still stuff going on here, and like it's fine, but I think it needs a bit more. But there's still some great bands coming up, and it's just definitely changed over the past few months. Like stuff is definitely happening, I think. Joy or choice, it's up to you. Doesn't matter if you think you can see through. Well, I mean, previous music, I hadn't really been in a lot of bands before. I was in a band, and working with others, it was a good thing. Like it kind of got me into working with others. Before I'd just been more of like a bedroom songwriter. But I suppose even if the band's not going well and you're not completely happy with it, working with other people is still a skill to have, and I think it helped inform the way I write my songs and the way I go about speaking to people, just working with others, that sort of thing, yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of songs I have written which I haven't actually done anything with. I think that's the whole experience of knowing what your style is and just keep producing songs. Like, you're not gonna get a good song and then go, right, I'm gonna base all this off. You've got to go through, like, you've got to make the mistakes to learn from it, I think. So with writing a lot of songs, I've known what works for me, and like my vocals, everything like that, or just like how I feel. I know what works for me and I know what doesn't, and I'm also still finding out like a lot of the stuff about myself. I'm still discovering what my sound is and what I want to be doing. Well, I mean, I haven't really had a lot of experience, but I think a lot of the things I write about are kind of stories, often in perspective of someone else. So if I've read a story, then I'll try and put myself in their shoes, just because I'm still kind of young. I haven't really been through everything, so I like to put myself in other people's shoes and see how, if I was in their position, it would make me feel, that sort of thing, just like about anything really.
It's a romance. Don't let it persuade you.
Yeah, it was great. It was my proper first time working with a producer who actually knows what they're doing, because I've done stuff in my bedroom before, but it's never been to the standard of how I want it. And constantly listening to something that you're working on it's not demotivating, but you're hearing it constantly and it doesn't really feel like it's going anywhere. So definitely working with someone else, it helped inform it a lot actually. Like, it's shown me what works and what doesn't. The same with songwriting, but it's been really helpful because, you know, people can have their own opinion. That's the same when I was in my bedroom. It was just me hearing the songs, and it's good to have someone else's voice or someone else's opinion. Just like, change this, change that, and then it's just good to have someone else on board with it, I think. The song, it's still pretty much the same. It's just minor changes, you know. Like I was saying, it was just in my head, so it was good to see what someone else wanted to do with the song. It was written pretty recently. It was written pretty recently. I had a bunch of songs that I kind of wanted to release first, but it kind of just clicked. I really like the feel of it. Like, it's not like this huge thing. It kind of worked in my head, and the lyrics came. It wasn't a specific subject. It sort of just came into my head, and I just went through with it. I just persevered with it. And then it was really good to have someone else on board, because I'd written the thing really quickly without really thinking. It just came through. And then having someone else on board saying, oh, you could do this. And then it was just like, yeah, I mean, that was the first time someone else had an opinion on one of my tunes. So I was like, this is probably a good idea to release, because it's had more than one voice on it. I think it is kind of unexpected. You can have in your head what sound you're going for, but you can't just like spur out all these ideas and just expect to be where you are. Like I was saying, I think you have to make the mistakes to find out what your actual sound is. Otherwise, you're just not going to find out just by, like, you can't have perfect music coming out of you. It just doesn't really work like that, because it's always creative and everyone perceives something differently. So it'll be perfect to you, but completely different to someone else. And I think the whole finding your own sound thing does take time. Like, even if you know how you want to sound, you can't just say, right, this is it from, say, one single I'm doing. Like, I probably will find my sound after doing a few songs, and it might not be what I think it is, but I'll hopefully find it eventually, yeah.